Ladies and gentlemen, the men's and women's NCAA Final Four is all set. The MLB season has been action-packed early, and the NBA playoff race continues to roll on. All of this and much more coming up on College Crossfire. Good evening and welcome into the College Crossfire. I'm your official host, Ryan Swantkowski, and we have an action-packed show tonight for you. Before meeting our contestants, I want to share with you that today's show is brought to you by Cat Metro, Austin's transit system. Connect you to work, school, play, and everywhere else in between. Plan your ride to this weekend's game at catmetro.org. I think I've said that thing like maybe 50 times. It's ingrained in my memory. But all right, let's go ahead now and meet the players of tonight's contest. Introducing first, a man whose name is known around the TSTV and sports world altogether, Grabiel Silva. Grabiel, how are we doing?
I'm doing really good. Excited to be back on the show. I think this is my second time this semester outside of the tournament champions at the beginning. And basically, I'm here for more tournament champion points because I want to be in that event at the end of the year.
Wonderful. He's here to plan for the tournament champions, here to win tonight. Welcome back, Grabiel. Introducing second, a local legend who continues to rep the H with me, Robert Gonsoulin. Robert G, how we feeling today?
That's my producer.
Repping the H. Feeling good. You know, it's Final Four's coming up, Masters next week, MLB season's underway. Couldn't ask for better right now.
Yeah, couldn't ask for better. I completely agree with you. Stephon Diggs being a Houston Texan couldn't ask
great
for better.
Day to be from Houston.
What a day to be alive from the H. All right. And introducing third, the man behind the action that makes the show run and theoretically my boss, Mr. Justin Goosman. Goose, how are we feeling?
We're doing good. I'm glad to be here, you know. Spent a lot of time in the back room, but we're letting Tyler Moss take it over tonight, so it's good to be back on air.
There we go. Welcome back, Goose. It's glad to have you all here tonight. Before we get started, though, let's go over the rules of the game, just in case you've never tuned in. There will be 3 rounds, with each round containing 3 questions, and points will be given to who I believe has the best answer in order of 3 points, 2 points, and 1 point. Whoever has the most points at the end of the third round wins and gets to come back for next week's show as well. But we can't forget the third and final round, or the rapid fire round, is worth double the points. That meaning the best answer will receive 6 points, and so on. New to the game, in case there's a tied score at the end of the final round, I do have a very quick bonus question to see who is crowned the champion. Also in this rapid fire round, these lovely contestants have not been able to see or prepare for these questions whatsoever, meaning they will have to improvise, overcome, and just hopefully not get caught in the crossfire. There we go, Robert G got it. Now that the game is explained, let's get to firing. Texans women's basketball was sadly eliminated from the NCAA tournament this past weekend after losing to NC State 76-66. What was the main reason for this loss, and who is your pick to win it all now for the women's bracket? Grabiel, we're going to start with you here first.
I think the main reason for this loss was they couldn't really string together a couple of good runs. Our women's basketball team. So, you know, they fell behind early. They were down. I don't think it was by 20, but it felt like 20 whenever they're in the first half. So it was really something that was insurmountable for them. They did chip back in, but it just felt like it was a little too much. I didn't know that was part of the question. But my pick for the women's tournament champion is going to be, probably not the obvious pick. I'm going to choose Iowa, the Iowa Hawkeyes. You know, it just feels very, storybook. Like it'll be the storybook finish for Caitlin Clark and her amazing career. She just took down the reigning champs. She's going to play against a team that didn't offer her in UConn. And then possibly she's going to go against the best team in the country in South Carolina. And it would be the best 3-game stretch at the end of the year for these Hawkeye women. And I think that they're going to be able to pull it off thanks to Caitlin Clark. I'm going to choose Iowa Hawkeyes as my women's champion.
There we go. Iowa to take down, just took down LSU to take down UConn, and then we'll see who they face. Maybe South Carolina, we'll see. Like the Iowa call. Didn't know there was the other question, but you answered it well. The women kind of got that far from a lead or a big deficit and really tried to inch their way back and never quite got there. Seemed like the entire game. So I like that answer a lot to start us off. Robert G, let's hear it.
All right. I have to go with the way Texas played man defense on Sunday. They opened up the game going man on man, and yet they were NC State was able to get these comfortable edges, these leads throughout the first half. It wasn't until the second half when Vic Schaefer actually made an adjustment and started playing zone defense. And yes, NC State stayed up the whole game, but in the second half is when Texas started to go on these 6-0, 8-0 runs and cut the lead to maybe like 6 or 7. Yes, those runs happened, but you can only prevent another team from scoring for so long. So that's why that's why NC State was able to score when they could score. It's because the way they played man defense wasn't good enough, and that opened up the zone defense, and that allowed NC State to shoot more. So my pick for the rest of the Final Four now, I just said it, revealed my answer by accident, but it's South Carolina. Let me rephrase this. South Carolina isn't the team that's talked about. They don't have Paige Beckers. They don't have Caitlin Clark. They don't have Cameron Brink, Juju Watkins, Angel Reese. But they haven't lost a game all season. They have Camila Cardoso. We saw how dominant she's been in the tournament so far. We've seen how dominant she was against LSU, a team to compare them to. We saw the LSU Angel Reese versus Cardoso rematch. We know how dominant she is in the paint, and this team hasn't lost a game yet. They just don't have that spark or star player where everyone's just talking about all the time. But that doesn't mean that they're gonna go not win the Final Four. They haven't lost a game yet, and there's nothing to prove why they shouldn't win it.
There we go. Like that passion a lot. South Carolina, like you said, hasn't lost a game all season long. Not one. Remember that crazy buzzer beater they had with the girl was left open for 3? That was a wild one. Like the South Carolina pick. And man defense, like you said, man on man, didn't seem to work well. From then on out, it was kind of already game over. So great answer for you, Robert G. And Goose, let's hear it, man.
Yeah, I think the reason that Texas lost this game is, one, Madison Booker didn't play electric basketball. And I know she shot 8 for 21, still had a solid game, but she only had 5 assists, and she paired that with 4 turnovers. So that was the first reason. The second reason was NC State shot 50% from the three-point line, 9 of 18 compared to 1 for 8 from 3 for the Longhorns. And last but not least, NC State shot 25 free throws compared to just 11 for the Longhorns. That's never going to get it done in this climate of women's college basketball. Also, when Isaiah James goes out there and scores 27 points on 9 of 17, there's not a whole lot you can do. So when you pair all of those things together, I think that's the biggest reason why Texas lost. Robert brought up the zone defense, but I felt like it was Texas's ability to score a little bit better in the second half that slowed the game down, let them get into their zone defense, and then they were kind of able to make moves from there. As for my championship pick, I also have to go with South Carolina, but for a couple of different reasons. One is their depth. When I look at a team like Iowa, they run a 7-man rotation, and I'm really comparing South Carolina to Iowa. I think both of those teams are going to be who we see in the national championship game. Angel Reese had 17 points on 20 rebounds against the Hawkeyes, and with a 7-man rotation going against a big like Camila Cardoso, who averages 14 and 9, I think that she's going to dominate. I think that South Carolina's depth, they run a 9-woman rotation. I think that's really going to help them. Malaysia Full-Wiley is a really shifty guard. So I think all of those things together, South Carolina is going to get it done.
There we go. Fair enough. Great explanation. 9-man deep, 9 women deep, 7 women deep, rotations. You got everything in the mix there, Goose. I love it. And you got South Carolina, and then Madison Booker, like you said, maybe not her best game, played well, but maybe not her best game, especially with the assist. And 50% from 3, I mean, no matter who it is, I mean, that's hard to beat. No matter who you're going up against, 50% from 3 is a crazy number to go up against. So, tough one to give out points here, but with the 3, gonna give this one to Robert. Actually, like this example here with the zone versus man. Like this explanation of South Carolina. The 2, Goose, it's going over to you over there, and with the 1, Grabiel, to start us off for this show. All right, moving in to the second question of the night. The men's Final Four consists of 2 number 1 seeds, a 4 seed, and an 11 seed. Give me your prediction for these Final Four games, and who is your men's champion at the end of all of this? Robert G., we're going to start with you in the middle.
Okay, so on the first side of the bracket, I have UConn over Alabama. I mean, watching that Illinois versus UConn game, going on a 30-0 run that started in the last minute of the first half, I mean, come on. I mean, that proved the dominance that I saw in UConn right there. They were actually playing to the level of I want to call them on the brink of a blue blood status. Maybe they are already blue blood. I've seen people debate about it, but they were playing to that level basically in that game. They basically went out in the second half and they're like, okay, I'm sitting up. I'm playing, that little meme.
Yeah, they're sitting up in the chair.
They're sitting up in the chair now, and they started playing. UConn outright is going to the championship. And then NC State versus Purdue. I like the DJ Burns matchup versus Zach Edey, but Zach Edey's just far more dominant. I feel like Burns has that. People are like, oh, this is going to be a great matchup. It's not enough to handle Zach Edey.
Yep.
Burns is a March player who's coming out now in being big in this tournament, but Edey's just going to prove too dominant to them. They've had too much losses in the past years. It's going to be Edey dominating in this performance, and it's not going to be quite the matchup that people are expecting. UConn versus Purdue, I have to go with UConn's dominance. They've proven to play and shoot the ball so well beyond the arc. If you've taken a look at all the shots that they've taken, shoots the ball so well beyond the arc, and there's not going to be anything Edey can do about it. He's a down low post player. I got to go with UConn.
All right, fair enough. UConn. I'm not going to give my opinion yet on who I believe is going to win it all. I'll tell you that after this question is asked by everybody. But UConn, very fair pick there. Purdue also to beat NC State, fair pick. I mean, Edey being, 7'4". I know DJ Burns is talented. He's got great footwork. He's being maybe recruited by the NFL potentially. Who even knows? But it's going to be really tough for them to stop that. So I like the pick of UConn versus Purdue. Goose, we're going over to you.
Yeah, and I hate to be boring here and choose the same teams, but when I look at these matchups, DJ Burns versus Zach Edey, we haven't seen DJ Burns go up against a 7-footer that can really match up with him defensively. Kyle Filipowski kind of can, but he's not as strong. He's not as physical, and this is the first time that Burns is going to be going up against a center that can out-physical him, and that's what I think is going to be the key difference. Purdue is going to win that game because of the way that they get to the free throw line. Zach Edey got to the free throw line 20-something times in their last game, had 40 and 16, and it's not like they're playing bums. They're playing teams that have good interior defense. I just don't believe that DJ Burns is going to be able to stay on the floor for most of the game. I think he's going to foul quite a bit, and I think that Zach Edey is going to take advantage of that. On the other side, as much as I would like to pick Alabama, UConn has been too dominant, a 28-point margin of victory throughout the entire NCAA tournament. I just don't see any way that Alabama wins this game. Mark Sears can have a great game, and I just don't think it's going to matter. And then in the UConn-Purdue matchup, I like to look at matchups a lot, and I think Donovan Clingan matches up really well with Zach Edey when you look at who they've played across the board. DJ Burns doesn't have that type of height. Clingan does. He's a really good defender, blocks a lot of shots. And then just UConn's guard play in general, kind of like Robbie G talked about, I just don't think that Purdue can really match up with that. Fletcher Lawyer, Braden Smith, both really good, but they don't match up to the UConn guard play.
Yeah, absolutely. UConn versus Purdue yet again, but like you said, went into the matchups a little bit. Donovan Clingan, very good player for UConn, almost kind of slept on in my opinion. Can block those shots, like you said. DJ Burns uses that physicality, but against a guy, again, who's 7'4", who knows how that will really work out for him. So I like that answer from you again, Goose, and Grabiel, let's hear it.
Well, I don't want to be extremely boring, but I think I'm going to have to pick the exact same two teams because, I mean, like these other guys have said, Purdue, Zach Edey, I mean, previously on the show I have slandered Zach Edey, but I have to give him his flowers for this March Madness run finally that he is having. I think he is going to have his way with DJ Burns. I don't think he's going to be able to keep up with him. He has been in a lot of foul trouble, and as Goose mentioned, that the one time DJ Burns faced a good big in Filipowski, he wasn't really a threat in that game. So I'll have to go with Purdue. And on the other side, my original national championship pick in our TSTV sports bracket, UConn, which has me in first place. I'm going to pick them to win.
Had to drop that.
I'm going to pick them to win against Alabama, and I'm going to pick them to beat UConn. Tristan Newton and Donovan Clingan have been excellent. UConn has won their last 10 games by over 13 points. It's just an unprecedented amount of dominance from these Huskies, and I think they're going to continue that against Alabama. I don't know if they'll beat Purdue by over 13, but I think they'll beat them as well.
All right, fair enough. Well, we got UConn versus Purdue across the board, and we got UConn winning all three. So kind of hard to give out points, but going off explanations here, Goose, I'm going to give you the three over there. Like that you brought in Clingan versus Edey. We'll see how that goes. Burns, we'll see how he falters against Edey as well. With two, I'm going to give it to Grabiel, like 13-point margin there. Yeah, straight up. And then Robert G, I'm going to give you the one. That's a tough one to give out points for, guys, but that is how the cookie crumbles sometimes. All right. Moving over to the third question, last question of this block, and sticking here with the madness of March. Who do you believe has been the most impactful player in the tournament, men's or women's, and why did you pick this player? Goose, we're going to start with you on the end.
It's going to be boring. It's the 7'4" Purdue big man, Zach Edey. And here's the reason why. Averaging over 30 points per game and over 12 rebounds a game in the NCAA tournament, you got to go with Zach Edey. I look on the women's side and I see someone like Caitlin Clark. She does it all. She does a ton of things well for Iowa. She's the engine that runs that offense. But Zach Edey, if he is not on the floor for the entire game, they essentially don't beat Tennessee. He played 39 minutes against Tennessee and they squeaked out that victory. Yep. He shot over 20 free throws because he's just so dominant. In fact, he's only 20 free throws away from breaking the NCAA record for most free throws in a season, set by Frank Selvey in 1953 and 1954.
Wow.
If that's not dominance and if that's not impact, I don't know what is. I believe that Caitlin Clark is an amazing and special player, but when it comes to impact, I think Zach Edey means a little bit more to his team just because he has to be on the floor the entire game in most of their close matchups if they want a chance to win.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Edey is definitely impactful. I knew that was going to be somebody's answer tonight. Great explanation. Do the refs give him some calls? We may never know. Is he taking a lot of free throws? Yes. Is he boring to watch a little bit? Yes. But is he impactful? Absolutely he is. He is very impactful. So, great answer to start us off. We're going to you, Grabiel.
Well, thanks for confirming that he is a foul merchant. So I'm not gonna pick Zach Edey. I'm gonna go with Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark, it's the biggest name in both tournaments right now. You know, her run has been legendary. She leads the Hawkeyes in both points and assists. She's averaging almost double the amount of points as her next closest teammate. So that just speaks volumes to how good she is. She's shooting about like 45% from three. She had 9 3-pointers against LSU in that dramatic, very highly watched rematch on Monday night. And, you know, she dropped 41 in probably the biggest game of her career so far, you know, the rematch after the championship loss last year. I have to go with Caitlin Clark. I mean, without her, what is this Iowa Hawkeye team? I mean, you can't even name the second best player on that team, really, other than Caitlin Clark. So I'm going to go with Caitlin Clark for this one.
Fair enough. You got some eyes raised over here
You don't know about Gabby Marshall?
Hey.
Stole you, right?
Besides that point, I mean, you're absolutely right.
Double the amount of points as her, probably.
Caitlin Clark has been absolutely dominant. That game was highly sought after. Rematch from last year. Clark, seemingly game after game after game, continues to show up and show why she's one of the best players in the entire world, especially on the female side of basketball. So I like that answer a lot as well. And Robert G, round us off.
All right. I don't think this team is going to win the Final Four with this player, but I think he's been super impactful and brought in a lot of attention to himself, and he's got America rooting for him. I'm going to go with DJ Burns on NC State. So, for those who don't know, NC State, with DJ Burns leading the team, was a 7 seed in the ACC tournament. They weren't even supposed to be an at-large bid, to my knowledge. Well, they're still running. I even picked them to lose in the first round. DJ Burns, he has this support on his back from all of America. They're rooting against Jared McCain, rooting against all the other players that NC State has had to play, the top players. DJ Burns, he like you said, he's built like a football player practically. I think he's been so impactful because people love to see this bigger guy, not necessarily the tallest center, but a bigger center, go up against some of the best players in the country and dominate so well. And also, I think it's so impactful to the tournament because it shows players, young athletes all around the country that size does not matter in terms of, like, it shouldn't limit you in terms of what sports you want to play. This guy's a big man trying to play football, looks like he's a football player, and he's going to the Final Four. Yep. It's definitely impactful to kids in terms of, like, you don't have to be limited on the sports you play.
There we go. Impactful outside of the game. Robert G, I like it, man. Woo! It's what show's about, man. Ooh, I love it. I love it. All right. Robert G going with DJ Burns from NC State. Goose going with Zach, Foul Merchant, Edey. Just kidding. And then we got Grabiel over here going with Caitlin Clark herself. Giving out points here. Grabiel, I'm giving you the 3. Believe Caitlin Clark on both sides. Been the most impactful overall. With the 2, I'm giving it to Robert here. I know, Goose, I'm sorry. Robert, I really liked your explanation there. He's been impactful, obviously on the court, but off the court as well, doing things that we haven't really seen in a long time. NC State Final Four, their run's been absolutely phenomenal. With the 1, Goose, yes, Zach Edey's been impactful. I'm not trying to downsize that. But the other 2 explanations, pretty good as well. Pretty good as well. All right, that'll wrap things up for tonight's first round. Don't go anywhere. College Crossfire. We'll be right back. Welcome back into College Crossfire. Quick scoring update for you. And just like last week, if you tuned in, we're all tied at 6. So got to go down the list. And there you go. Let's now get back to some different sports questions. The MLB season has been off to an interesting start as some teams are unexpectedly struggling while others are already exceeding expectations. Given this short time frame, what team has surprised you the most to start their season? And what about them has surprised you? Goose, we're starting with you on the end.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody on this panel is going to like me. I think we got to go with the Houston Astros. Starting 1-5 on the season. Now, they may have picked up a win tonight, but they have just simply not looked all that good to start the season. Their bullpen has struggled. They lost that game last night to the Blue Jays because of the struggling bullpen. And their next 7 out of 11 games are against the Texas Rangers, and then they follow that up with 3 more games against the Atlanta Braves. We're talking about a world in which the Astros could start the season 5-15, 6-14. I mean, those are ugly numbers, and the way they've looked so far, I don't think that we are going to see an Astros team start hot and be able to recover the way they've looked. I get it, they're experienced, they probably will find their groove at some point this season, but if you get behind the curve too early, you're setting yourself up for failure. They've surprised me the most. I thought they would start this season better, and they simply haven't.
Fair enough. Well, you brought up the bullpen. The bullpen's been just absolutely atrocious. I mean, you got me from Houston, we're all Astros fans right here, so I get it. But the bullpen has, quite honestly, been one of the worst starts to a season I've ever seen in my entire life from any baseball team. Maybe the Oakland A's is probably up there year after year, maybe. But regardless, their stretch to start the season against these teams is very difficult. Very, very difficult. They have not started off as many people would have thought they would have started off. We'll see how it goes. I mean, you're absolutely right. You're hitting on the head there, though. All right, Robbie G, we're going to you.
Man, it hurts me to even think about the lack of success the Astros have had. So I'm going to go with a different team, one that might make us feel pretty happy, just seeing them do well. I'm very surprised and happy about the AL Central Cleveland Guardians and their start of the season. Shout out Noah Gross at KXA and Sports. Cleveland Guardians 5-2 right now, and arguably one of the worst worst divisions in the entire MLB. This team didn't even make the playoffs last year. A losing record, 77 and I think 86, something like that in that range. That's what it was. They didn't even make the playoffs right now, and now they're second in their division behind a team that did make the playoffs last year. They have Steven Kwan on their team right now. 12 hits, 9 home runs, a 3.53 batting average, but he's not even leading in the on-base percentage. It's Andres Jimenez. This team is actually turning it around in one of the worst divisions in the league, and is on path to, starting out with a 10 record, so I have to go with the Cleveland Guardians. Shout out to them.
All right, Andres Jimenez, Stephen Kwan. I like it. I think you accidentally said 9 home runs. That's definitely not true. And you might have meant RBIs, but I get
9 runs. 9 runs. 12 hits, 9 runs.
12 hits, 9 runs. Stephen Kwan entered the league, I believe, last year. A little young rook, and then Jimenez got the speed on the bases. I know exactly what you're talking about. Guardians, what a time to be alive in a very, very bad division.
Shout out to Guard Dogs.
Worst division in baseball. We'll see how it goes. I like that answer, Robert G. I like it. I like the fire. All right, Grabiel, let's hear it, man.
Well, the Guardians is a great answer, but you know who the team they're behind is? The Detroit Tigers. The Detroit Tigers have started undefeated. I don't know if they are still undefeated. They were 4-0 when I checked this morning. They have played some subpar teams in the White Sox and the Mets, but they have looked really good. This hot start, who knows how long it could last, you know, especially in this weak division. A great start could push them ahead, and maybe it keeps them ahead for the rest of the season because, you know, the Royals, the White Sox, the Guardians, you know, I don't know if those are really teams that are going to be able to compete with them as the season goes along. Maybe the Minnesota Twins, but they haven't started off just as good either. The Tigers, they have a whole bunch of good players like Mark Canha, Spencer Torkelson, and they have pitcher Jack Flaherty, who started off really good for the Detroit Tigers in his start to begin the year. And, I mean, it's been a really good surprise for this team because the preseason picks have been, you know, mostly the Minnesota Twins, maybe the Royals, but nobody really thought this Tigers team would, you know, jump out as hot as they have been.
Yeah, I like the Tigers. They're a young team. They kind of remind me of the Orioles from really 2 years ago, having some really young kind of core pieces make their way through, Spencer Torkelson and guys like that. Their pitching staff is great. They need to stay healthy. Tigers off to a good start. Haven't played great competition. The Mets are probably going to be pretty bad. I forget that first team you said, but I know they're bad. The White Sox are probably the worst team in baseball, let's be honest. So, not great competition to start. I'm not wrong.
4-0 is 4-0.
4-0 is 4-0. Absolutely. You can't choose who you play. You just got to play them. So I like that answer a lot from you, Grabiel. Great answers all around from you guys. Going to give the 3 points here to Grabiel. Like the Tigers start. I like where they are at right now. And in that division, again, believe they can maybe make some noise with 2. Going to give it to Goose. Sadly, Astros have been off to a rough start. I didn't give you the 3, though, because they've had to start almost similarly before in previous years and have went on to make the World Series. And I don't even know if it was win it, but they've made the playoffs all those years, I believe. With the 1, Robbie G, like the Guardians. Not super confident in the Guardians. They've had a nice start, but we'll have to see on that one. But we'll give you the 1 there. We'll have to see. All right. Well, others are... Oh, excuse me. Sorry. I lost my spot there, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. All right. The NBA superstars this year have been balling out. This includes players such as LeBron James, Luka Doncic, and others. But there have been some hidden gems this season as well. Give me one underrated player in the NBA who hasn't been getting enough credit this season, and why do you think he isn't being talked about as much? Robbie G, we're starting with you in the middle.
All right, ready? De'Aaron Fox on the Sacramento Kings.
All right.
His team is sitting at 7th in the American... 7th in the Western Conference right now. I'm mixing up my sports leagues right here. 7th in the Western Conference right now. Talk about being underrated. As a Rockets fan for years, it wasn't, the teams with the best players not in playoff contention who were saying, they're underrated, or it wasn't the teams in the best who were saying, they're underrated. It was the teams smack dab in the middle of the playoff picture who weren't getting talked about enough. De'Aaron Fox is 9th in scoring overall in the league, 26.1 points per game, shoots over 46 field goal percentage, yet no one is talking about him right now because there's those teams that are coming back, like Jalen Green and the Rockets, getting into the playoff picture, and the teams that are atop the playoff picture. Yep. This is a team that is sitting atop the play-in bubble right here. Why isn't he getting talked about enough? Because it's a middle-of-the-line Western Conference team. Yeah. He's smack dab in the middle. He goes right under the radar. I got to go with De'Aaron Fox, 9th in scoring overall. He's keeping the Kings at the top of the play-in. It's just, they're going to be a threat when the playoff comes around.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you kind of... I always forget what's that for. Hit the nail on the head. Is that right? I really like your explanation there. Middle of the pack really never gets talked about. Like you said, Rockets making the run. Oh my God, what's going to happen? Teams at the top. Oh my God, they're so good. Then that 4, 5, 6, 7. You're like, whatever. Like, will they go up? Will they go down? De'Aaron Fox is a sneakily good player. I like that answer a lot. Start off the Kentucky boy. Got some speed. Great shooter all around. Great answer to start us off, Robert G. And we're going to go over to Grabiel.
Well, De'Aaron Fox is a great answer, but I'm going to have to go with his severely underrated, or in my opinion, number two man, Domantas Sabonis. Sabonis has, I think, 57 consecutive double-doubles. Nobody really has talked about that. It was only talked about when he broke the record. I think it was the record for the double-double streak. And, even then he's been sneakily good, averaging about 19 points a game, 13 rebounds. He also has this, he's on the same team as De'Aaron Fox. So they're a 7th seed in the West. They're doing really good. They're 13 games above 500 in a stacked West. The West is extremely stacked this year. But, he's very underrated, probably even on his own team. He just mentioned De'Aaron Fox, and I went with the guy right behind him. So I'm going to have to go with Sabonis.
Yeah, Sabonis, great answer. I would agree with you as well. Underrated player on a potentially underrated team. You guys both going with the Kings. But I like Sabonis a lot. Really doesn't get talked about enough. Great, phenomenal rebounder. Does not get talked about enough. Like that answer a lot. Goose, round us off.
Before I give you my answer, the reason the Kings haven't been talked about is because they were better last year. They're not playing as well as they should be. They should have made an improvement. They didn't. So let's get to my answer. Jalen Suggs. And let me tell you why. Averaging 14.5 points this season, a 6-point increase from his rookie year. And if you go back to some pre-draft discourse, everybody thought he was going to be a bust. You look at his rookie year shooting percentages, he was shooting 36% from the field his rookie year. He's shooting 46% from the field this year. You look at his three-point percentage from his rookie year, 29%, shooting 40% from the field from three this year. And he's one of the best defenders in the league. On a night-in, night-out basis, he's being asked to guard guys like Steph Curry, like Jaylen Brown or Drew Holiday, depending on where they want to put him, on other elite guards in the East like Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Trae Young. We talk about Alex Caruso a lot as being a guy that impacts winning on the defensive end, but Jalen Suggs averages the same amount of steals, more points on better efficiency, on a better team in the Eastern Conference, and on a younger and less experienced team. Give me Jalen Suggs. He needs to get more respect.
All right, well, I see our stagemen are over there going like this. They're saying, let Goose cook, let him cook. First off, like your explanation to start off here, it's the fire that we're looking for on this show, saying, hey, the Kings, nobody's being talked. They're not talking about the Kings because the Kings ain't even all that good. They're supposed to be better. Like the way you start that off. Jalen Suggs, like you said, love the stats that you brought in. I didn't necessarily think he was going to be a bust. Maybe not. I didn't think he was going to be great. He's playing very well this year. Like you brought in Caruso as well. That's the guy we all know, we all love. Suggs kind of fills that same exact role. So I really like that answer from you, Goose, to round us off for the second question. Tough to give out points for this one, boys, we'll say. With the three, though, giving it to Goose down there on the end. Look at that. Look at that little smile, little hand gesture. He's with it. With the two, this one was tough. I mean, it's the same team. I feel like they are both slept on. But I'm going to have to barely give it to Grabiel with Sabonis. I feel like he is slightly more underrated when it comes to that type of area with his skill. With the one, Robbie G, like your answer a lot. Tough one to give out points here, though, for De'Aaron Fox. So I'm going to give you the one there. All right. Final question of this second round. It's now April, which means the NFL draft is now just a few weeks away. In your opinion, what draft class in recent memory has been the best, and why? Grabiel, you're starting us off.
Well, I'm extremely happy to be first in this question because I went with the 2020 draft class. I mean, Burrow, Tua, Herbert, Tristan Wirfs, Jay Jettas, CeeDee Lamb. Those are all guys just barely in the first round. Right? I mean, you have Brandon Ayuk, Jordan Love as well, right? And that's just all in the first round. All those guys have transcended into, not superstars, but stars in the NFL currently. And then you go to the second round, there's like Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, Trayvon Diggs, other guys that even in the second round are also stars in the NFL today. So there's plenty more names that I have slipped my mind, but that draft class has, compared to recent ones like in 2021 and 2022, 2023 is still kind of early for a lot of those. But 2020, it's really aged perfectly for how all these players have gone about in their career.
Yeah, 2020 is absolutely loaded, like you said. I mean, every single one of those players, I'm sure everybody in this room knows that name. I'm sure people watching know that name. Obviously, Joe Burrow kind of leads that pack. CeeDee Lamb, just phenomenal wide receiver for the Cowboys. Maybe their only good player on offense now. Just kidding. But 2020 is absolutely loaded. I think you said it. You said it well. Great way to start us off. All right, we're going to Goose.
All right, I'm actually going to go, this may be recency bias, I'm going with last year's draft class. Now, the QB class, maybe not the strongest we've ever seen, but they still have a transcendent talent in C.J. Stroud. Anthony Richardson looked really good before he got hurt last year. Bryce Young doesn't have a really good situation around him right now, so I feel like we should give him a little bit of time. And then Will Levis, when he came in, played some pretty good football, so showed some promise as well. And that's all just at the quarterback position. At wide receiver, you got guys like Jordan Addison, Zay Flowers, you got Puka Nacua, Tank Dell, all of these guys just kind of scratching the surface of the potential that they have. And then you look at the defensive end, you got guys like Will Anderson, Kalijah Cansey, Devon Witherspoon, Brian Branch. All of these players have extreme potential. They could all be Pro Bowlers within the next few years. And that doesn't even touch the tight ends like Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid, both guys that were arguably top 10. Sam Laporta probably top 5, maybe even a top 3 tight end this past year. So I think we have to give the 2023 draft class a little bit more time on the QB side, but everybody else has made an impact right away, and there are guys from top to bottom of that draft board that are really, really talented.
Yeah, really, really well spoken. 2023 draft class, really, like you said, the quarterbacks, there's obviously got Stroud, kind of an outlier. Nobody really performs that well year one. Outside of that, the quarterbacks have been okay. But you look around the league, you're seeing not only starters, but consistent, high-level playing starters. I like he brought in Branch, I believe, yes, from the Lions. He's a great player with a weird piece, in the helmet thing. Will Anderson, phenomenal talent. There's talent across the board, not just in one position group. So I like that answer a lot. From you, Goose, and Robbie G, round us off for this round, man.
I like what Goose said with 2021, but there's a lot of hypotheticals there, as I've only played one season. I mean, we don't know how Bryce Young is going to do. Yep. Will Levis, we're still waiting on. Richardson, injury. Stroud is great. Meanwhile, Grabiel, I mean, we've seen a lot of injuries plague the 2020 draft class. So I'm going to go with the 2018 draft class with, Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, Minkah Fitzpatrick. I'm going to give one word: adversity. We've seen some of these players, Baker Mayfield in particular, bounce around the league a lot, and we've seen them play in the playoffs multiple times. I mean, Mayfield played this past year, but Josh Allen has been battling the playoffs for years now. And I'm going to go, this is a draft class we've been able to see pan out and actually go, and whether it's on one team or multiple teams, go on those teams and actually win games. Baker Mayfield's been around the league already. Minkah Fitzpatrick's been on his team solid. Mayfield's been around the team a bunch, but he's able to prove that he can win. I mean, you have Tua Tagovailoa in 2020, that draft, he got injured. Joe Burrow gets injured. Let's go with a class that stays healthy and has been to the playoffs before, proven playoff success, and has proven that they can win with their team.
Robert G, I like the passion from you tonight, man. I like that a lot. It is important to see how these guys pan out. 2018, plenty of time, 6 years' time to see how good really was that draft class. Baker Mayfield coming out, obviously very highly sought after, thought to be the best quarterback coming out. Kind of suffered a little bit with the Browns, kind of bounced around, found his home with the Bucs. Like that a lot. They have suffered some adversity. Now you can see the guys who are still around who have really put that 2018 draft class on the map. Like that answer. Like the passion from you, Robert G. I like that a lot. Great way to end this block. With the 3 here, Goose, man, this is your round. I'm giving you the 3. 2023 was loaded really from top to bottom. You look around the league, you can pick out the top 16 teams. They probably have a rookie on that team last year that really stood out and made a big impact.
I didn't even talk about running backs.
I mean, running back, Jahmyr Gibbs is right there.
Bijan, HN, all those dudes.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Best draft in the last 13 years.
I'm sorry?
A year ago, that was the best draft in the last 13 years. It was a year ago.
Oh, look at this. I like that. I like the feistiness. His explanation was quite good, and honestly, it's definitely up there. I would say so.
It's a spicy show tonight.
It is a little spicy. I'm feeling the tension. I think Joe's feeling it over there. He's sweating probably. With the 2, Robert G, I like your explanation. So I'm giving you the 2 here. 2018 may not be the best. I do like the adversity aspect. I do like the panning out aspect a little bit more to years. With the 1, Grabiel, 2020 was loaded indeed. Robert G brought up, they are a little bit injured. Starting to get a few question marks. But I'm going to give you the 1 there to round off this block. All right. Great answers all around by our contestants. We've got Rapid Fire coming up next, along with the score update. Stay with us. You won't want to miss it. back into College Crossfire. We have a tight game going on right now. I'll give you a quick scoring update. Leading the pack, it's the Gooseman with 14. Right behind him in second is Grabiel with 12, and right behind him, is Robert with 10. All within 2. Still anyone's contest to take as we enter into the final round of tonight's show. That's for double the points. And my advice to the contestants: don't get caught in that crossfire. Let's just keep it easy, guys. Come on now. All right, let's get into our first question. It was found that during Texas's Elite Eight game against NC State that the three-point line was different distances from the hoop on either side of the court. In an Elite Eight game, I believe this is truly unacceptable. What do you believe the repercussions should be for this, and how do you think this even happened in the first place? Anybody can answer.
First off, with the way that the two coaches agreed to play on it, I don't think there should be any repercussions whatsoever. However, before the fact, I think you should always, coming from the NCAA standpoint, not the coaches, you should cancel the game before there's even discussion about, hey, do you want to play the game or not? Yes, both teams get a chance at the shorter distance to the goal from the three-point line, and then they take turns, so someone gets a chance from the further end. That discussion, that agreement, that should have never been talked about in the first place. Second of all, what is the NCAA doing to even, on one of the most, highest games in the tournament? It's the Elite Eight now. It's not the round of 64 anymore. It's not the round of 32. Why are we getting our dimensions on the court wrong? So I don't think there should be repercussions necessarily because they agreed to play on it, but how are you letting this issue happen in the first place? And what is the process that's going into building the court and the floor? What are the NCAA guidelines on that? And I know it just depends by venue, by place, but what's going into that process?
Yeah, absolutely. Fair enough.
As far as repercussions go, it's really hard to hold the NCAA accountable because they're the entity that runs it all. But what they should do is pump money into the women's game. We saw a few years ago the weight room for the women's tournament during the COVID year was tiny. It didn't even compare to what the men had. What the NCAA needs to do is pump more money into the women's game. This can never happen in an Elite Eight matchup. It's just truly unacceptable. I don't believe the game should have been played. I believe the coaches should have figured something out to move the game to where we have an even three-point line. But they both agreed, so it's not... I wouldn't say it's the reason one team won or lost.
Yeah.
As far as the cause goes, this is a failure on all fronts from the NCAA. From the very first person that checked the court to the people that put the court together to the last person that steps on the court. It's a failure on absolutely every front. I don't think there's one singular cause, but the fact that this wasn't noticed until the Day 2 matchup in Portland is absolutely beyond me. It's ridiculous, it's unacceptable, and the NCAA needs to do better for the women's game, especially given the fact that the women's game is arguably more popular than the men's right now.
Yeah, very fair yet again. Very fair. Grabiel?
I don't really know. There shouldn't really be any repercussions. Like they both said, the coaches both agreed to play, but I really don't see why they would agree to play. They were the last game of the night. The men's games are going on at the same time, so you can't argue about, viewership, NCAA-wise. So what was the repercussions if they move it back 3 hours, 4 hours, and now you're by yourself in the primetime slot on a Sunday night on Easter? So I don't see why, they couldn't just move it back, because it would have helped both teams, especially in a game with this magnitude. This is a game with a chance to go to the Final Four at hand, and you decided, one half is going to be shorter than the other. One half, that's a huge disparity. If this happened in any other basketball game in the world at that time, it would have been delayed. It would have been stopped. I mean, we had buzzer delays a couple days ago with the Lakers. There was like a halt and play for minutes on end. So, I mean, the women's game, they're really trying to grow it, and this is just something that shouldn't happen, and I'll have to say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Fair enough. I completely agree. That's something that should not have happened. Lots of questions around it. Why they agreed to play. I get it. You're there. You're warmed up. Let's get it going. But, I mean, this is completely unacceptable. And honestly, a sad fact is, if it was on the men's side of the bracket, I think it would have become an even bigger story, which is just unacceptable again. So, anyways, complete madness. Should hopefully never happen again. And we are about to move on to our second question right after I dish out these points real quick for everybody. All right, they're dished out. We're good to go. Second question. Shifting back over to the MLB Diamond, one of my favorite things about the MLB is their unique stadiums. They all have different angles, outfield lengths, and cool things that make them unique. In your opinion, who is the best ballpark in America, and why is it the best? Anybody can go.
I'm going to go with San Francisco's Oracle Park, right? Right on the bayfront. Beautiful ballpark, right? It's always, kind of cool in San Francisco. So just going out and catching a ball game at any time during the day it looks amazing. Right on the water, you have splash hits. It looks very, aesthetically pleasing. There's a whole bunch of, nice sculptures in left field. Right field, you have, is it McCovey Cove? I think I might be getting it mixed up. McCovey Cove, very iconic. The ballpark, all grass, dirt, looks very, baseball. It feels like baseball, so I really like Oracle Park. Something about it, it's very magical, especially when those Giant teams were good back in the early 2010s. It was just a really good ballpark to, to take in.
Yeah, so great answer to start us off.
I gotta go with Wrigley Field in Chicago. The history, just everything about it, the way that you feel whenever you look up at those signs at Wrigley, it's something special that I don't think a lot of fans really take into account whenever they go to a basketball game, they go to a football game. There's so much history. It's been around for so long. It's a centerpiece of a historic city in Chicago, and I think that plays a major factor in how cool a ballpark can be. I love the views and I love the layout of the San Francisco ballpark, but there's a ton of history at Wrigley Field, and I think that for me makes it the coolest ballpark in America. You see downtown Chicago in the backdrop, and I really, really like the way that Wrigley Field looks and just all of the history behind it.
Fair enough. I love Wrigley. I'll be there Friday. So
history and scenery are great and all, but I have to go with experience at the ballpark. You can go to Yankee Stadium in New York City and take the subway to the stadium. If you have some nosebleed seats, that's fine, but you can see the whole scenery of the Bronx, outside of the stadium and everything. It's a whole experience. But the main thing to me is, you have to go to their Walk of Fame, their museum out in left field, Yankee Memorial Park. I've always wanted to just go there and, go, hey, it's Babe Ruth's plaque. Oh, hey, it's Mickey Mantle's plaque. Joe DiMaggio's plaque. All the way down the line. Oh, Derek Jeter's plaque. Mariano Rivera's plaque. Their history is arguably at the start of when the MLB started all the way to now, 27 World Series. I want to see all those awards. I want to check out the bleacher creatures in left field shouting all the time. I want to see all that history of the MLB, and I want to walk through that museum and see what America's pastime, how it's changed through the years.
Fair enough. All right. Different answers all around for different reasons. Got more historical per se at Wrigley. Love Wrigley. Have been there. Never been to Yankee Stadium, but man, if you're wanting baseball history, you want to see all these legends go through, sadly, Yankee Stadium. But great point there from Robert G. And Grabiel, great point as well. The Cove, there's really cool signs. San Francisco Park is one of the coolest parks in all of MLB, and that cannot be denied. So great answers from you guys. Write those points down. We're going into the final question of the night, bearing a tie. As true sports fans and enjoyers, we all have that one player who we love and that we will defend no matter the situation. Who is this player for you, and why would you have his back no matter what? Anybody can go.
I'm gonna have to go with my short king, Jose Altuve. He's been great for the better amount of a decade now. He came in on a terribly trash Houston Astros team in the early 2010s, and he's been there this whole time. The guys, the original core of Springer and Correa have all gone and onto, I wouldn't say greener pastures because we keep winning, the Astros. But he's been there. He's also endured a lot of hate from the sign stealing scandal. And even then, I don't believe he was actually one of the guys who actually did any of that stuff. And he still fought through it. He's a postseason legend. He's on his way to the postseason homer record to overtake Manny Ramirez. And the guy still catches a lot of flack just for the sign stealing scandal, which a lot of people would say he didn't even partake in. So I'm saying Jose Altuve. It's my guy. I'll back him every day.
Fair enough.
Not to be somewhat boring, but I'm going to stay on the same team here and go with George Springer. As a huge Astros fan growing up, it was great to see us become a great team and become a really, really bad team and become a great team. And in addition to Jose Altuve, he was kind of the first new guy, the first new star on the team. But people forget that. You know why? Because about a year later, Carlos Correa came in. Yep. Boom. George Springer's out of the spotlight. Carlos Correa is the big guy. Jose Altuve is the big name on the team. It's those two guys. And then, boom, a couple years later, Justin Verlander comes in. Yep. Evan Gattis is playing well. So, a bunch of other players too, but Dallas Keuchel. But from someone who came into the organization as the first new guy, the first new piece, and helped turn it around, and then kind of be out of the spotlight and let Correa and Altuve and Verlander take everything, and then he goes to the World Series and becomes a World Series MVP. I always have to have George Springer's back and just prove that why he was always an integral part of the team. George Springer.
Fair enough. I'll explain that. Yep, go ahead. Good. I like that answer, OG. It's good.
Matt Ryan, my king, my GOAT. You are a Hall of Famer, and I hope that you know it. Because the records that Matt Ryan holds, ladies and gentlemen, he has the most consecutive 200-yard passing games in the entire NFL. He has over 60,000 passing yards in his entire career. In the Super Bowl, Tom Brady said that if there was a perfect quarterback game, it was Matt Ryan until the 28-3 blown lead from Kyle frickin' Shanahan. It is all Kyle Shanahan's fault. Let me get that out there. Matt Ryan is a Hall of Famer. I do not care what anyone says. I will defend him until I die. The teams that Atlanta built around him were simply not good enough. He never had a top 10 defense. His top weapons most of the time were a washed Tony Gonzalez and Roddy White. He then got Julio Jones, one of the greatest receivers of all time. But they never built a defense around him. His running backs were Devontae Freeman and a washed Michael Turner and a washed Steven Jackson. I mean, come on. They never built around him. He's a Hall of Famer. What anybody tells you about Matt Ryan is false. If they try and slander his name, do not believe it. He's a Hall of Famer in my book, and I will say that until I die. I'm saying this with all of my heart,
I can tell.
There's some tears rolling over here.
Get some tissues over here. My God. That's the answer I'm looking for, man. I got players where I'm like, you say something bad about him, I'm pretty sure we all know probably who we're talking about here. I will back them up no matter what. Wow, guys, you did not make my job easy tonight. Per usual, I have assigned the points. There is a winner with no bonus. Drum roll, please, real quick. The winner of tonight's show is Justin Goosman. Just barely. Goose gets it done. Woo, we got time for FaceTime.
Yeah, we
got time. Man, that was close. Oh my God, that was close.
Oh, man, it was great to be back on air. It's been a long time. I went on one time last semester, but this was a lot of fun. Ryan's done an amazing job hosting all year long. We have 3 special shows coming up for you with an alumni show, a senior show, and our Tournament of Champions. I want to send a huge shout-out to Tyler Moss in the back room and everybody that helped out with tonight's show. This went super smoothly, and I could not have done it, and they could not have done it without the hard work that everyone does here at TSTV. It was just a great time to be on, and Ryan, I'll send it back to you.
Absolutely, Goose, that was beautiful. That's a newsworthy little segment right there. Great answers from all you guys tonight. Really appreciate you guys being here per usual. But that will wrap things up for us tonight at TSTV. Thank you to everybody in Master Control and studio personnel, contestants, especially the audience, to you out there watching. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. And TSTV, we will be back next week. I'm your host, and we will see you then. Have a good one.